Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now today I simply have to tell you about something wonderful that happened yesterday. We found ourselves completely unplanned, randomly, in an arcade in South Shields. It was fantastic. We actually had planned on going to an art gallery in Sunderland to have a sort of an edifying experience for the soul, seeing some modern art at the National Glass Centre. But when we got into Sunderland, we had forgotten that there was the half marathon being run. So certain key roads in the city were simply closed to traffic. At one point I found myself driving along a bus route the wrong way. Hopefully we don't get a fine for that. I don't think we will, hopefully. But anyway, the point is we couldn't get to where we wanted to go, and we were planning on having lunch at the gallery as well, in the cafe. But that couldn't happen. So we're a little bit irritated, a bit hungry, a little bit lost, and suddenly found ourselves out by the coast and decided to have a seaside afternoon. And that's exactly what we did. Obviously, first point of order was getting some lunch. So we went to a fish and chip shop on the coast. What else are you going to do in that situation? And the fish and chip shop had run out of fish, unfortunately. But that's good. It means that they use fresh fish every day. But in this instance, it meant that I had to have chips and a battered beef burger, which I've never had a battered beef burger before. I'm not averse to battering things. In the northeast of England, a little bit like in Scotland, there's a strong chip shop batter culture going on, but I've never had a battered beef burger, and it's exactly as you think it might be. It wasn't the best beef burger in the world, and it was more than a little bit greasy. So I didn't finish it, but it was an experience. But more than that, it was just lovely sitting right by the sea, having chips on the coast. It was just the perfect setting on a lovely day. And the tide had come in, so we didn't go onto the beach, but what we did do is go to the arcade. And I couldn't be happier that this ended up happening. Selden's Leisure Arcade is where we found ourselves, and I'm so pleased that this arcade was exactly what I was hoping it would be when I poked my head in through the door. It was very reminiscent of the arcades that I grew up with in Rhyl and Prestatyn on the North Wales coast. It had that sort of atmosphere, that density, because it wasn't the biggest arcade I've ever been in. This area was fairly modest in terms of the North Wales arcades, but it had the right number of machines to noise to people to space kind of ratio going on. And as we went in, on the right hand side, all the grown-up machines are there, the gambling, the sort of stuff you find in pubs, this kind of thing, slot machines, whatever. But then the rest of the space, 2/3 of the area, was just good arcade fare, ranging from computer games to coin dozers to practical arcade games as well. So things where you might be able to throw a ball at a clown, for example, or at an alien or something. It was just a good arcade couple of hours that we spent together, and that was the best part as well. I was spending this time with my lovely wife. She didn't grow up with this stuff, you see. So I sort of found myself, like a sage sort of Fonz type character, just sort of leaning on the coin dozer as she was experimenting with when to put the 2p coins in, giving her some tips and advice, from my years of experience growing up on the hard streets of Rhyl. And crucially, throughout this whole experience, we played a range of games. So, for example, there was one where you have to sort of tap the keys of a giant piano in time to the graphics on the screen to try and get a big score. We shot Space Invaders down in a giant version of Space Invaders called Space Invaders Frenzy. That was fantastic. I had to go on a basketball arcade setup, and I have to say I haven't lost my touch. I got some good scores on the basketball, and crucially, every machine in the place was giving out tickets. A little ribbon of perforated joy was emerging from the machine, depending on how well or how poorly you were doing. And actually, they were quite generous as well. Compared to some machines I've seen in my time, the Seldon's arcade was giving out a good number of tickets, and so at the end of our time in the arcade, we counted up our tickets at the ticket counting machine. You sort of slot them in, they're shredded and counted, and depending on the total you get, you can trade the sort of receipt you get in for a prize, in for something that you can take home with you. In our case, we got enough for some some kinetic putty. Yeah. but I like a bit of putty. It helps me concentrate. I like having something to fiddle with while I'm working, for example, or trying to solve a problem. So yeah, I kept one of the tickets. It didn't make much of a difference to our score, one ticket less, and I had a great time. And crucially, I was quite pleased that I haven't lost my touch in terms of these arcade games. There's one in particular where you're sort of rolling 2p down a ramp towards little slots at the back, and there's a sort of a rolling conveyor belt of obstacles, and I scored quite well on that machine. It was a great Sunday, and it was completely spontaneous. We had no idea on Friday that we'd end up in an arcade on Sunday afternoon. Magnificent. And here I am on Monday, still thinking about it, still grinning, and just couldn't be happier. So I simply had to share it with you today. So arcades are still out there, and I couldn't be happier to have found a good one on my doorstep. Anyway, guys, whatever you get up to this week, hopefully it's half as much fun as that. As ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.